Good afternoon, members of the media, members of the national community. Thank you very much for paying attention to our request, and those of you who are present here with us and those who are listening on your various platforms, tuning in at such short notice. As you all are aware, the United States is our major trading partner, and approximately 250,000 of our citizens live in the United States. Against this solid background of friendship and cooperation, the government of Trinidad and Tobago has constantly been engaged with the decision makers in Washington, D.C., and focused on building the relationship with the leadership in Washington. In the last few years, United States sanctions against Venezuela has had a negative effect on the growth of trade and cooperation within the sub-region, insofar as Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago are concerned, with certain knock-on effects on other CARICOM countries. Since 2019, I have personally been developing strong relationships with the decision makers across the aisle in Washington, D.C. Both myself and Minister in the Office of the Prime Minister, Minister Young, have been managing the discussions in Washington, D.C. as it related to Trinidad and Tobago, as well as other aspects of CARICOM's engagement with the United States government and Congress. To this end, we have made many visits to the United States Capitol and have held many meetings with very many officials there. In parallel to this, the government of Trinidad and Tobago took a principled position with respect to our closest South American neighbor, the Bolivarian Republic of Venezuela, when certain other countries recognized an alternative government in Venezuela. Trinidad and Tobago's position was based on and grounded in the United Nations Charter, when we took the position of non-interference and non-intervention. We have always advocated and encouraged that the people of Venezuela should work together to sort out their internal difficulties. In fact, Trinidad and Tobago was out front from day one to encourage and facilitate dialogue between the President Maduro government and the Venezuelan opposition. This remains our position to this day, and we will continue, along with our CARICOM colleagues, to support any and all such initiatives. As you are aware, my government has focused on the potential and possibility of developing, producing, and processing gas from Venezuela in Trinidad and Tobago. We had spent considerable time, effort, and energy in negotiating a commercial term sheet in 2018. This development was paused due to sanctions in 2019. We have always seen the national and regional importance of the natural gas resources in Venezuela and its close proximity to the existing world-class energy infrastructure in Trinidad and Tobago. You would recall that in 2022, I made 2 visits to Washington, D.C., and that I attended the Summit of the Americas in Los Angeles. One of these visits to Washington was to attend a United States CARIFORUM meeting with United States Vice President Kamala Harris, who was charged by President Biden to chair a team to work on energy security for the Caribbean region. I, as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, am Vice Chair of this initiative. CARICOM leaders engaged with the U.S. President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris at the Summit of the Americas. That meeting took place in June 2022, where we spoke at great length about the importance of the CARICOM in the region, and in particular, the role we could play in regional and even global energy security. We have spent significant amounts of time educating those who are concerned about energy and food security, about the significant role that Trinidad and Tobago can play in the provision of LNG and fertilizers, ammonia, urea, and UAN. And Minister Young and myself made it our business to ensure that decision makers in the United States and Europe understood that we are the only jurisdiction in the world that had immediate existing spare capacity for the production of LNG, ammonia, urea, UAN, and methanol. And we have this right next to proven reserves. And all we in Trinidad and Tobago needed was access to those reserves on the other side, across the border with Venezuela. This message and conversation was had with the highest level of decision makers in the United States, including the President and Vice President Biden and Harris, respectively, and many congressional leaders. We have also consistently worked with Venezuela and the Venezuelan government to keep this possibility a reality. Throughout these unusual periods of difficulty, Trinidad and Tobago maintained its centuries-old relationship with our closest neighbor just 7 miles across the water. Energy security for the region at this time relate not only to our country, but is of keen interest to Jamaica, the Dominican Republic, who currently use LNG, but also other territories like Barbados and Grenada, where exploration is underway, and Guyana and Suriname, where gas reserves have been discovered. Trinidad and Tobago's access to gas and the use of LNG and the petrochemical industry in Trinidad will benefit CARICOM and CARIFORUM nations. Vice President Harris has been a careful and committed listener to these entreaties, and we have been working with the White House to make the energy security for the region and Europe a possibility once Trinidad and Tobago is given access to Venezuelan gas. Recently, Trinidad and Tobago was part of a CARICOM team which met with the U.S. Treasury and the Department of Energy and the United States State Department on all of these matters. Minister Young was also tasked with staying focused with White House teams, the United States Department of Agriculture, State Department, and the Department of Energy. We applied to the Office of Foreign Assets Control, OFAC, in the middle of 2022, and have been working with our lawyers in D.C., as well as through other initiatives, to be granted a waiver from sanctions to pursue development of the Dragon gas field, which lies just about 17 kilometers across the border from our own active hibiscus platform. The United States government has today approved Trinidad and Tobago's development of the Dragon gas field via an OFAC waiver from sanctions with specific terms to be finalized. What this means is that the restrictions on the Dragon gas field development is now relieved, and all relevant parties can progress the plans to result in natural gas from Venezuela eventually flowing for the first time from these proven reserves to Trinidad and Tobago, and then on to Caribbean, European, and other markets, bringing much humanitarian benefits to the Venezuelan population and greater energy security to the Caribbean region. Ladies and gentlemen, today is a significant and happy day for me, my team, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, and the people of the CARICOM and the CARIFORUM region. This is a significant development with far-reaching consequences, and it behoves me from this podium in Trinidad and Tobago to say thank you to a number of people who went out of their way to be of assistance to us to bring about an understanding of this situation where the decisions are being made. There's still a lot more work to be done, but this is a giant step forward, and I would be remiss if I did not thank Congresswoman Maxine Waters of California, who we in CARICOM regard as our probably, I don't know how to call her, but she has been like a representative from the Caribbean, along with others from both sides of the aisle. And I must mention people like former Chairman Greg Meeks, Chief Whip up there, Jim Clyburn, and we did even have the assistance of our lobbying team in Washington, who opened the doors for us and ensured that all who should listen to us and hear us did so and had the opportunity to do so. And the end result was that there was a general feeling, a consensus that was built from persons both on the Republican side and Democratic side as we met them, that it would be a good thing for all if Trinidad and Tobago's spare capacity was put to use to supply the clean fuel, LNG, and the fertilizers that are important and would continue to be important in the world of food supply and increased production across the board, with all the consequences and the benefits that will flow from that. So we are very grateful that we are in this position now where the planning can be accelerated and we can come to a day when the reserves from our neighbor can come to our infrastructure and feed the demands that they exist, as they exist within our region and outside of our region. So if you have any questions, I'll take them now.
Curtis Williams from The Express. I was a little not sure about something. Did you say that the terms of the license they're still to be finalized? Is that what you said?
There are a lot of terms that will be finalized both with the Trinidad and Tobago and Venezuela, and Trinidad and Tobago and Shell, who is our partner in this particular project. So the highest hurdle has been crossed with being relieved from the sanctions. The license itself from Venezuela and the actual development that we were anxiously wanting to proceed with Shell, we can now accelerate that.
On the other side, the operator is Shell and the Venezuelan side of PDVSA.
The operator would be Shell. The owner.
On the Venezuelan side.
They wouldn't have an operator in there. Shell would be the operator of the field, but as it stands now, the field is a PDVSA field. So whatever license we get from Venezuela to operate the field, PDVSA would be involved in that.
Afternoon, Prime Minister. Prior Bihari, AZP News.
Welcome, Prior. What's the name of the outfit again?
AZP News.
No, I'm not giving you any free publicity here, but AZP News is in the house.
There are reports that that part of the agreement is that Venezuela cannot get any cash payments. How is that going to work?
That's not a problem. I mean, once you get paid, you can get paid. You may remember there was a time just before we got to this position where the Venezuelan government provided cash outlay to Trinidad and Tobago. I think it was $50 million to purchase items produced in Trinidad and Tobago for consumption by the Venezuelan population. So it's not new to us. We've done that before. So once the stuff will be bought, we buy the gas and we pay for it in a variety of ways.
Kejan Haynes, Guardian Media, does this come with any assurances that the U.S. can't change their mind or backtrack and reimpose sanctions just as we're about to get the ball rolling?
Of course, it comes to the same kind of, the U.S. could say one day to us that, we can't export into their market. It's an option they have. But the license has terms, and one of the terms is that initially it is for 2 years, but we applied for 10 years, and the option to continue is always there. But we are always optimistic, and we are eternal optimists in these matters, because at the end of the day, once it benefits all of us, there'd be no good reason for the benefits not to be had.
I'm glad you said that. What does the U.S. get out of this, you think?
What they get out of it? I don't want to speak for the United States. I can only speak for Trinidad and Tobago, and sometimes I speak for CARICOM. But I think it's a win-win all around. Because, the energy supply, energy security in the Caribbean is energy security in the United States.
I want to ask you 2 questions. What is the kind of time frame you think between now and first gas? And the second thing is, how do you react to the fact that the opposition would have had a different view in terms of how the relationship should have gone, Maduro and Guaido?
Separate the questions and I'll answer them one by one. And I want to try to answer them together because I don't want to get confused. And I don't want you going and telling Reuters about anything that I said that I didn't say. So give me the questions one by one, clear as crystal, and I'll try to answer them.
Right. So the first question is whether or not, what is the time frame that you think for the from now to first gas?
Well, I wouldn't want to answer that question as specifically as you put it, because I would also have to be advised by Shell and the Venezuelan government as how fast we can go, right? But the question is how soon it should get to market, because the market desperately needs these products. And as a matter of fact, that is the same question that was put to us on many occasions in Washington by congressmen and women who had farming districts, who wanted fertilizer, and people who wanted to know that the price of fuel would come down if the market is better supplied, and so on. So it's a question that needs to be answered. And all I could say to you today, Curtis, is that we'd be going full speed ahead to get it to market at the earliest opportunity. It's not going to be tomorrow. It's not going to be 2023. But because there's a lot of work to be done, a lot of lead time, engineering work to be done. While the field is a proven field, there'll be some wells to be drilled and so on. So all of that will come into play. But we are on the right path, and therefore we're going in the right direction.
And the second question about with respect to the government, as you pointed out, took a particular position with respect to the Maduro regime, continue to recognize it. Do you think if you had taken the opposition's position that you would have been in this situation
Well,
now?
certainly not. If we had taken the opposition position, we would have been where they are right now. And that's one place we don't want to be.
Can I follow up on something that you said not tomorrow, not 2023, but a 2-year license. Can you fit that within that?
We anticipate that we would make significant progress towards a gas supply. It's largely a pipeline and field development, and with acceleration, we can, what needs to be done, all the lead time work, we'll do as quickly as we can, but we will have to rely on Shell giving us those schedules, and I must tell you, as soon as we get them, we will share them with you, and I'm sure Shell as a major partner and involved in this would speak for itself on it. But it's not going to be a secret. But we are on the right path.
In dollars and cents. The people always want to know if we're making money off of it. What do you think will come out of that? Financially.
A lot. Because we're talking here about natural gas, which is a very valuable product. We're talking about this term sheet we have is for initially 350 scf per day, right? That's our million standard cubic feet per day. So 350 scf per day. At the end of the year, that would be worth approximately $450 million US. And if NGC is handling that, whoever is handling that, there would be a decent profit on that margin.
The big question, now that you, bearing in mind that you might be able to, that you should be able to get this gas from Dragon, does that open up now the possibility of a window for Train 1?
Well, I'm not going to try to answer that now, because the first hurdle we have is to maintain the level of utilization that we have. As you know, we at peak, we were consuming 4.1 billion cubic feet of gas per day. Because of our own mature fields being used up, we are now, with our best efforts, COVID notwithstanding, we are producing at 2.8 billion cubic feet per day now. So there's considerable gap But then the first hurdle is to be able to continue consuming at this level and ramp it up. And we know we can get up to approximately approaching 4 billion cubic feet. Train 1 as a piece of equipment, and whether that will play a role, would not be a factor in this first tranche of gas. But if there's more gas to come from our own fields and even on other Venezuelan fields, then Train 1, or any other train for that matter, because remember, Train 1 is a piece of equipment, right? And all that will depend on what's available. But the first hurdle is to be able to sustain your consumption for Trains 2, 3, and 4 now, because as you know, only recently we announced the restructuring of the Atlantic business. And in that restructuring, 2, 3, and 4 became one producing entity. And the government of Trinidad and Tobago has moved its interests from Train 1 in mothball to Trains 2 and 3, where we had no shareholding. So we are now a shareholder in Trains 2, 3, and 4, which is a far better position than being in the Train 1, which we couldn't find gas for.
John Sullivan with the Newsday. To use your local parlance, given that we have received this blight from the U.S., what does that mean for the Lauren Manley gas field?
Lauren Manley. It means that is a particularly good question, I must say. It is the first time Lauren Manatee, that gas has been known to be there for 20 years. And we had approached it as a country, or as two countries with gas on the border, to exploit it through a unitization approach, meaning that both countries had to agree on all the details as to how the gas could be brought to market. And for 20 years, we couldn't agree on that. What we did here as this government, in this approach of looking for gas that is so critical to our existence, we approached the Venezuelans and got the agreement to allow us to go alone to extract our portion. And to do that, we had to abandon the unitization approach and introduce a new approach. And that would have been the first time that would have happened in our gas handling business. And then, of course, now that we've got the giant step towards exploiting gas from a Venezuelan field across the border, it opens all kinds of possibilities for business between two neighbors. One that has world-class infrastructure like Point Lisas, where we have 10 methanol plants, ammonia plants, urea plants, UAN plants, a country that has those facilities, and a neighbor that has a large amount of unproduced natural gas. If you look at Europe, look around the world, look at Australia, you would see how countries with the raw material supply economies that require that raw material. The best example of that in the world is Japan, which became the second largest economy in the world, using resources from countries outside of Japan. So we have come to a place in Trinidad and Tobago now where we should have been a long time ago. But it took a lot of persuasion to get a yes from Venezuela to agree to export some of its raw material, natural gas.
So I'm trying to understand a little bit with respect to that Dragon. Are you suggesting then that now that it's worked out with, not Dragon, sorry, with respect to Manatee, now that you've worked out the Dragon issue, that there might be a possibility of producing Manatee as Lauren Manatee with that 10 TCF?
Well, we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. Right now, we are moving towards producing the Manatee portion of Lauren Manatee. That's 27% of the field, meaning that another 73% will be left there for the Venezuelans. One has to look at the economics of that and the good sense of that, where somebody might say to you, okay, you've got your 27%, now close the field and go. That's not likely to happen. We believe that the economics of it and the benefit for Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago could see a brighter future that does not end when Trinidad and Tobago extracts its 27%.
Sir, sorry, going back a bit with regards to the terms and conditions of this deal, what were some of the other conditions you mentioned to my colleague in front here? can't remember. You mentioned one of them. And what are some of the other?
Well, I think the main condition is that we give priority to supplying our Caribbean neighbors who need it. Jamaica, one of the persons that I should thank in helping us get into this position is President Alberto of Dominican Republic, because he, the CARI Forum is the non-CARICOM, including Dominican Republic. So this discussion of energy security for the region involved Dominican Republic, who are now significant consumers of LNG, and they now look to Trinidad and Tobago for supplies. And Jamaica is also in the business of using LNG. They've got degasification plants already, and they're doing some more. So Jamaica and the Dominican Republic will be beneficiaries, because one of the things that the U.S. asked us to include in this as a condition is to ensure that we provide some supply to our CARICOM neighbors.
What about Cuba?
Petro-Caribbean.
No. Petro-Caribbean, that's a different story. This is straight commercial arrangements.
Is Shell going to get any sort of concessions, more concessions now to bring that gas out of there?
No, we are not. We don't know of any concessions. There's straight commercial arrangements. There's a commercial term sheet where the gas has a value. We've agreed on a price, and once the gas is produced, it is measured, and you get the value is established. So there's no extraordinary concession as far as I know. But bringing gas into the country would require certain kinds of things that we have not done before, legal and otherwise, and it's commercial.
The 2018 term sheet remains in place, and as I remember it, the NGC is supposed to pay for the pipeline. Not so. At least the NGC in the budget documents continue to have a figure there for that. So it's in the budget.
Those are discussions that will form part of the relationship between Venezuela and Trinidad and Tobago, and I wouldn't want to go into that now because those are discussions to be had. But with respect to the NGC paying for the pipeline, again, I don't think it was that clear-cut, because we do have some arrangements with Shell as the operator, and of course, we in Trinidad and Tobago, the one thing I can tell you for sure is that we will not be shy in going away from that kind of investment, because we've seen the benefit of it, and we've also seen the benefits or the loss of benefits of being shy at the creation of these operation stages.
Given that Venezuela is still largely under U.S. sanctions, are there any terms that we can and cannot do, and do you fear that there might be a possibility of it may overlap, and we have to be very careful about what we do in this?
We have not seen any terms that we don't think we can meet. Because if that was the case, then we would have negotiated that at the time when we discussed it. But the terms that we have to meet, whatever they might be, we have not seen any that we don't think that we think are beyond us.
Term, when does that start? Does that start after you sign off on the term?
Well, that would be put in the document. I leave that to the lawyers, and Minister Young is heading our team, and we have top class legal firm in Washington that is assisting us, so that will come into play when the ink is put on.
How many conditions in all do we have, and how soon will we get the full list?
There are some things, that are better left behind closed doors, but we have not seen anything that we are concerned about.
Cost to getting license, or negotiations, etc.
I think there will be some. There are usually small costs for legal things that do. We have to pay our legal fees, and of course, if the license in Venezuela has a cost, then we pay that. But that's a very small cost as compared to the size of the product that's going to come out of it. We're talking about billions of dollars on an annual basis.
Have you shared the news with Caracas? Is that, and what's been the response of the Venezuelans?
Well, the U.S. made an announcement half an hour ago, and I am meeting with we're meeting with the ambassador here in Trinidad in a few minutes, so we're all on the same page.
You would have given a statement on Sunday I believe the expression was difficult days ahead, and it was related to the energy. Does that change that outlook that you gave?
A little bit. Because being able to look towards this supply changes, things. Because the point is, we have been in this business for a long time, using up billions of cubic feet per day. And as you can understand, unless you are finding an equivalent amount, your reserves will be going down. And then you get to a point where, you start to wonder when it's going to run out. And the infrastructure to handle these kinds of resources, to bring them to the world market, usually need a horizon of 20 or 25 years if you're going to make new investment. So if your reserves are only dribbling along with a 5 or 10-year horizon, you can't look to any new investment or even sustaining the investment that you have in place. So having access to gas fields outside of our border, this is a seminal development because it's the first time that we have had this opportunity. I'm coming into office in 2015, and I guess it's because of my geological background, I was particularly concerned about what the future will hold for us as we extract what we have been extracting since the late 70s. Because since we got into the gas business, fortunately, Trinidad and Tobago got into the gas business when we started compressing the low-pressure gas offshore. And we had natural gas policy where we no longer flared gas, but we put the compressors offshore, compressed that low-pressure gas, and started a gas business onshore. And then later on, we started actually exploring for gas and finding high-pressure gas. And then our oil production went down from a peak of 240,000 barrels a day to now, 56,000 barrels a day. Just ask yourself, if we weren't in the gas business, what would have been our position? And of course, if we are consuming as we are now, towards the time when we did experience between 2014 and 2017, we did experience gas curtailment, notwithstanding the fact that we comforted ourselves then by saying it was maintenance, and once the maintenance was over, everything would be normal. That must have been the biggest lie ever told in this country. But we had to concede that we had to find sources of gas. And we are still in that situation where we have to find more gas if we are going to look at a very long and comfortable horizon. And that is why access to a supply in Venezuela is so important and holds such promise for us.
Piggybacking on that question, Prime Minister, on Sunday you said darker days ahead. What is your new message today?
You published that. I never use those words. So if you're saying what I said, you have to use the words that I said, or the paraphrasing has to be a little tighter. I didn't say that darker days are ahead. As a matter of fact, I did say that we have bright days ahead. What I did say is that the future is not a smooth sailing, but there are bumps in the head, right? It's a roadway that is relatively smooth, but we do have some challenges along that we have to pay attention to as we plan the trip.
And I asked a question earlier on and got mixed up. With regards to the terms, is you said CARICOM having first priority. That includes Cuba?
No, we didn't. No, Cuba is not in the, in this terms. The terms, the simple, straightforward terms. CARICOM, and let me just bring this home by saying I want to thank the, President Ali of Guyana, President Santoki of Suriname, the Prime Minister of Barbados, the Prime Minister of Antigua, and only a couple of days ago, Prime Minister Davis of Bahamas, all of whom have been in Trinidad and Tobago's corner, pushing us to this point of encouraging the United States to do this. So my CARICOM colleagues have been there with us, in the room and out of the room, advocating on our behalf, and I want to thank all of them today. We did go with this not only as a Trinidad and Tobago issue, but as a CARICOM issue. And it's in that context that the U.S. has put in the terms that CARICOM should benefit from what we are going to do.
But unrelated, what's the biggest thing coming out of the energy conference? It just wrapped up. Any major deals that we should know about? Any sidebars that came, especially any agreements with Mr. Ali?
At midday yesterday, so, and I haven't been in touch with that, so I couldn't bring you up to that. I would like to see what they did, but it was a very good conference, I must say, and the subject matters were very pertinent to what we're involved in, and to have 700 delegates in that conference, we have come a long way, and I think it's one of the better energy conferences in the world now.
Last question, any agreements with Mr. Ali on the refinery? Any discussions, sidebar or otherwise, what we're doing with the refinery? And I know there was supposed to be some talks. Did that play out?
We are talking to everybody who knows that we have a refinery, if they're interested in it. So, but a refinery nowadays is not something that has a lot of people excited. But we hope that someday someone might be interested in it, and the fact that we can't find anybody interested in it should tell you something. Okay? I just want Minister Young to clarify a point that you only raised, and he'll clarify it in this context of the Energy Minister.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister, for the opportunity. Just to clarify in relation to some of the questions that were asked, the license from OFAC are not any change in a position of sanctions. So it's a license to Trinidad and Tobago and the government of Trinidad and Tobago. NGC is going to be the body, and the government was granted the license to utilize NGC, and NGC will be the body that will be used to transact the deal, working exactly as the Prime Minister said, along with Shell. All right, I think that's an important clarification, and this is for the Dragon field.
Thank you very much.
Saturday, 28th January. Get ready for the fiesta before the fiesta. As we keep our national platform alive, Talk City 91.1 FM brings to you the Talk City Fiesta. Talk City Fiesta. Coolers and Calypso. The Talk City Fiesta. At 11A Maribal Road, TTT's car park. Gates open 1 p.m. Showtime 2 p.m. Get ready for performances from the Monarchs, the Kings and Queens of Kaiso. Backed by JSP Band. Coming to the stage, Chalk Dust. All-Rounder, Devon Seal, Chuck Gordon, Terry Lyons, Heaven Snaky Charles, Mr. Shaq, Heather McIntosh, Contender, and Aaron Duncan. The best part, it's free. Talk City Fiesta, Coolers, and Calypso. Saturday, 28th January at the home of Carnival, TTT, and streaming on Facebook and YouTube at TTT Live Online. The Talk City Fiesta is powered by Talk City 91.1 FM, a member of the TTT Limited Media Network.
Hi, this is Gypsy, and as you can see, I'm at home and relaxing, and I'm about to have a straight talk with Wendy.
When did you start singing?
I started singing when I was 4 years old.
Wow.
At the village hall in Mayaro. A man named Mr. Shovington, God rest his soul, a wonderful man, looked at me and found I was such a brave little child. And of course, he was our friend, my grandparents' friend and everything.
Right.
And he took me to the village hall in Mayaro to sing my song.
Sang during your school time?
All the time. I was never off the stage. From since I was 4 years old, I've been singing. I sang in everything that they had. I went to San Fernando. I lived in Coquille. I lived in Pleasantville. I'm a real gypsy, you know.
Hey, it's Farmer Nappy.
She never bring no gift for me.
Oh, Lord.
That is me if it pink too.
Call the admin.
Farmer, what you making? You don't worry yourself. Mind your business before your business don't mind you. Wow, boy. Jesus Christ. If you want to show up, you can have the chop in the back there. The time that I touch her, never from it. What is that?
You ever see him blush?
Scrub it down.
So I'm not doing that.
Scrub it down.
The Youth Summit is a platform for youth to share, find their own voice, and contribute to the future. The theme was Adding Global Value, Taking Charge of Our Future.
But the reason why we are in this room is because we have, as part of our inheritance, global issues for which we perhaps did not even contribute towards, but that we must find solutions to, and that we must fix. We have to find the solutions. And I want you to not take for granted the weight of that responsibility that you have. Do something. And you may not even be successful at getting it done, but just do something. Let it be said that you did something. Even if it wasn't successful, just do something about the way you feel.
I want to leave this with us. I heard throughout the session that persons are talking that we are the future generation. But I love to say that we are the now generation because we are impacting the next move. We are impacting the next policy decision now. So continue to strive, continue to push, and let's build, look, not only one Guyana, but one Caribbean.
This is my first summit that I've been to, and I can say that it's so powerful and impactful to see that we youth have such a powerful voice here regionally and within our country. I've already started to discuss with Leo about the things that I want to start implementing with our own youth and have a national development with it.
The 3-day sessions were held at Shore Park Complex.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Today is important because the website, we launched our website finally, TobagoFestivalsCommission.com. This is going to be the hub of everything that's festival in Tobago. And when I say the hub, this is almost where the gateway to anything you want to know about festivals. This is where you can go now.
There is a national carnival and there's Tobago's carnival. Unless these stakeholders agree that we should move away from the national leg of the show, it will continue as long as all persons related and affected agree, then it's something we can look at. As it is now, it remains as part of our calendar of events.
That was a production of the Department of Information, Office of the Chief Secretary, Tobago House of Assembly.
Our presence here is to solve problems that you all are now facing, and we hope that we do the best that we can to make your life and your standard of living improve.
The maintenance that we are paying for the past, $300 for maintenance, almost 90% of the homeowners there are with TTMF, and they indicated to us that the money is in an escrow account. Of course, we would have had the issue. I spoke with Mr. Bosland, seeing him for the first time in person, regarding that issue. I had a conversation with TTMF, and they reiterated that nothing cannot be done unless settlement give instructions.
I have been a homeowner since December 2015. Right? I've been paying them a mortgage since the 31st of December 2015. And they are telling me the only way that they can transfer the funds to my mortgage, they are waiting on directive from settlements.
The electrical work is a case where When some of us moved in, the problem was that they use 110 wires for air conditioning. And when you try to use your washing machine, because they put it on a lower grade wire, it chips off the entire thing.
The service fee would cover things like insurance because of the